seriously, just thank you guys for being here. I wasn't sure how many people will show up, and both times, all the seats are full and whatnot, and it's just encouraging. And I'm so glad to just share this with you guys, and just because I love your kids, and I love being here, and I love this church, and I love being in this church, and it's just awesome. So we'll just dive right on in and begin, I guess. But I want to see if the same thing happened last time. A week ago was the first time I started here full time. And so I've been here for a full year now. A year and a week. Yep, no applause. Okay, that's what happened last time. So I was just saying, it was really encouraging to start with that last time. So, anyways. All right, you can cut all that, right? Anyways, no, but seriously, thanks for being here. And over the past year of just coming fresh out of college and being like, sometimes I felt like I was over my head, but sometimes I'm like, this rocks, yeah. But at the same time, just observing different things, I see so much potential in Boise First, like how many good things are happening and how many greater things can happen. I mean, there's just great stuff happening, and just like, I see this potential that we can just reach for further. And I want to be a part of that process and part of that journey. And I'm excited about it. And the reason why you guys are here is to, let's start the conversation about how children's ministry can partner with and impact your family in a real way. And this is going to be more of like the why behind things that I want to do in the future. This is kind of the reasoning why, and to also start the conversation. But in my reading, in the conversations I've had, and listening to different speakers, books that I've read, and also talking to people who are a lot smarter than me. Oh, I skipped this part. Anyways, I just know that that is a greater potential that we can reach. And so I'm just going to present some of that stuff that I have found out over the past year. And along with the slideshow, I'm going to talk about 3 different books. And if it's an orange slide, it comes from this book, Think Orange. So it's pretty easy, orange and orange. The next book is Sticky Faith. And so anytime there's a blue slide, it's from this book. And then anytime there's a white slide, it comes from this book, Transforming Children into Spiritual Champions by George Barna. And if it's black and white like this one here, those are my own thoughts. And so that helps you guys coming along with the thought process in this book. But out of Powell's book, so the first one's this one, the blue one. This is a crazy statistic. Well, I think it's crazy, but this is a statistic that they found in their research. That 40 to 50% of kids who graduate from a church or youth group will fail to stick with their faith in college. And I share this with you because I believe it all starts when they're children. Not when they're teenagers, but when they're children. Because children, they're growing physically, they're growing emotionally, they're growing mentally, they're growing spiritually. And as children, there's a spiritual foundation being laid down. With how much little or a lot of effort, there's something that's being laid down to build upon. And so when these children become teenagers, the youth ministry then builds upon that foundation that's being built. And then after they graduate youth group, they always explore their faith. They separate from their parents. They're like, I'm an adult, I can do stuff on my own. And you parents laugh because like, you'll find out how hard it is now. I've waited 18 years for this. That was a joke. But they explore their faith, but if there's a firm foundation laid down, they won't stray away from the faith, but they'll just build a further, stronger foundation. But 40 to 50% is a lot. But I also want to say that this process starts at home, and it continues at the church. It doesn't start here at the church. It starts at home with you guys, parents. And not only parents, but the people you allow to speak into your children's lives. Like me. So George Barna, we're going to this book now. George Barna, he's the founder of the Barna Group. How many of you have heard of the Barna Group before? All right, that's okay, I'm about to tell you what it is. They're a market research firm specializing in studying the religious beliefs and behaviors of Americans and the intersection of faith and culture. In this book, he breaks down statistics of children in America from behavior to health to academics and to spirituality. The results are very eye-opening. In fact, he says children's ministry should become the church's #1 priority. It's not why I included the book, even though I like what he says. And we're going to go into a quote from this book and break it down a little bit more. However, I want to see if that statistic holds true in this room. So I have a question for you guys, some participation. How many of you have accepted Christ as your Savior between the ages of 5 and 12? Or earlier, I guess. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Someone remember that. Okay. How about 13 through 18? So we got 14 and we got 3. Okay. Or when you turn 19 or above? 2. Interesting. Well, this is the statistic that he finds and breaks down in their research. They discovered that the probability of someone embracing Jesus as his or her Savior was 32% between the ages of 5 and 12. 4% for those between the ages of 13 and 18, and basically 6% for those 19 or older. And he says basically if they do not accept Christ as their Savior before teen years, there's a slim chance of them doing so in the future. And that holds true in this room, by the way, with how many hands? There was 14 for this. There was 3 people here, and there's 2 here. Ministry leaders in this church, they have a sphere of influence that influence all the kids, some greater, some not as great, and they play a role in the statistics mentioned here. However, again, you guys are the greatest influence, parents and the people that you allow to speak into your children's lives. And there's a quote that I've heard a couple different times that fits this as well, and it's by David Drays. He says, "We can't out-teach what you teach at home. We're not that good." And I don't think that's what ministry leaders try to do, is try to out-teach what you teach at home. That's not our job. So now we're shifting to the book Think Orange. They wanted to create a visual representation of family and church coming together. And they said that church is the primary color yellow, and family is the primary color red. And when you mix them together, you get the secondary color yellow. And they say,
Orange.
Oh, that's orange. You can edit that, right? Oh. And so this is what they say, is that church plus the family equals orange. But 2 combined influences make a greater impact than just 2 influences. Or 2 forces of influence creates a greater impact than just by themselves, is another way of thinking about it, which I believe to be true. And so here's the premise of the book. It's very simple. As long as churches do what churches are doing, they'll presently get the results that they're getting. And as long as families do what families are doing, they will produce only the outcomes they are presently producing. To experience a different outcome, we have to embrace a different strategy. The church has been painting in yellow too long, and families have been painting in red for too long. I do my thing over here, you do your thing over there. That mentality needs to break, because it causes a schism and there's no unity between churches and families. And in fact, this is what Joyner has to say about a lack of unity between churches and families. The church forfeits its potential to have greater influence on kids and students' lives. Churches miss critical opportunities to meet the needs of unchurched parents in their communities. Communities continue to perceive the church as institutional, insulated, and irrelevant. Productions and programs are positive or positioned as the answer. Parents and leaders fail to teach the same truths in a synchronized effort. I can provide children's ministry that looks like it's thriving because of the productions and all the stuff that's in place and their kids just love going to. But if that's the measure of their spiritual journey or their spiritual lifeline, that's very dangerous. And it only gives the illusion of a child growing spiritually. And it's just basically, it looks pretty on the outside, but it's just an empty shell on the inside. And I also don't want to swing the pendulum the other way and set unrealistic expectations on parents and say, it's all you. And also for your children in ministry, because that's just absurd of me to do. But my goal is to come alongside and impress on each and every one of your children the love and character of God. And from this is my motivation in challenging parents and coming with and sharing my heart today. And again, I say, let's start the conversation about how children's ministry can partner with and impact your family in a real way. There's this crazy statistic that I've heard 3 different times in the past year. And I finally figured out it came from this Think Orange book. And in their research, they broke down and they figured out ministry leaders have about 40 hours of influence in a year to influence a person's life. And so they created this graphic that resembles that. 40 hours in a given year to influence a life. I didn't count the dots, but I'm pretty sure there's 40 dots in there. Then they said parents have over 3,000 hours in a year to influence a person's life. And that's what this image looks like. Instantly, I was just like, whoa! If I try to do everything by myself, all my efforts are going to be in vain if I don't partner with parents. Because 40 hours means nothing to 3,000 hours. There's such a big difference that if I don't partner with parents, or if that churches don't partner with parents. So churches program throughout the week to capitalize on the spiritual life of young ones and the 40 hours of influence that they have, which is good. However, investing in a little of the 40 hours into parents will create a unified and stronger influence in children's lives and help realize that the churches and families are a partnership to come alongside. But these are some of the things that this is, I feel like, the climax of the book, even though it's just tucked away in there. But these are 2 quotes that would be back to back that were just so, like, they blew me away. And I think he hits the nail. What's that quote? Nail on the head. Nail on the head. There we go. All right. He said, some churches have unintentionally discouraged parents from becoming the spiritual leaders in their homes. They believe that parents probably won't assume responsibility for their own children's spiritual growth. So they tried to become a parent substitute. Which leaves a perplexing problem. That's a tongue twister. Is it that church is trying to assume a parent's responsibility because parents are not? Or the bigger issue is that parents stop assuming responsibility because the churches make them feel like the church should assume it. It's not good. It shouldn't be that way. So, to fight against that and that culture, I really want to start the conversation about how children's ministry can partner with and impact your family in a real way. So Dr. Kara Powell and Dr. Chap Clark, we're going to this book, they engage in this conversation with their book, Sticky Faith, Everyday Ideas to Build Lasting Faith in Your Kids. There was a recent presentation done at the last district assembly, and I attended it, and it was done, and basically, I'm just going to give you a quick summary of the presentation done by Pastor Johnny Hampton at Nampa College Church and Pastor Nate Roscom at Nampa First Church. They presented 4 pillars, and they are right here: sticky gospel, sticky church, sticky family, and sticky preparation. But first, it's about sticky faith. That's the name of the book. And in essence, this is what it is. It's about internal attitudes and external behaviors. A personal faith, but also a communal one together. And so to break down these 4 pillars, they say sticky gospel is about having faith that kids own. They own their faith, and they develop it. They're always learning. Sticky church is creating an environment where students engage and connect through intergenerational relationships and corporate worship. For sticky family, they had an illustration that described what a sticky family is not. And they called it dry cleaning parents. The child is dropped off, and then they're picked up. And they said that a sticky family is one where the parents are engaged and they're involved. And the last one, sticky preparation, is all about being proactive in children's lives rather than reactive. This bad thing happened, how are we going to learn from it? But being more active in initiating those conversations before, or actions. And so to recap the book, this book, the authors, they did a study that they could find a silver bullet, I don't like that, so I say a holy grail of having faith stick into students' lives. And they didn't find that holy grail or that X factor, but they did find something that was very interesting. And they call it a sticky finding. And basically, for high school and college students, there is a relationship between attendance and church-wide worship services and having faith stick in students' lives. Simply put, the more often children and students attend corporate worship, there's a higher chance of their faith sticking. Now, please listen. I'm not saying, forget Anchor Bay, we're bringing the kids down every Sunday. No, I'm not saying that. Anchor Bay is important, and the different ministries on that Sunday morning.